Hey guys, welcome to another segment here of Ballin in the Boot. I'm your host Jace Lejeune, and we're joined by Daryl Felker, Alex Allison, of course, two of our beat writers here for Gridiron Football. Have followed a lot of the Louisiana high school football scene alongside Grant Sastre, a former Gridiron Football intern, and he's done a lot of great stuff for Crescent City Sports as a early writer for them, and also his YouTube channel too, Rooter Sports Media. So guys, make sure to subscribe to his channel as well. There's a lot of really good stuff. I hop on the show as well a lot of times for Friday nights in the Bayou. So make sure to give him a subscription as well to his YouTube channel. Guys, we talked about Division One non-select, and we had a lot of conversations about that. But we're going to talk about Division One select, and we may have even more conversations because you can possibly say that the best 4 or 5 teams in the entire state are in this bracket alone. So let's go to it in Division One select. Here is your bracket. I know we went over Friday nights in the Bayou, but we're also going to go over here as well. And of course, with no shocker, the number one seed are the Car Cougars. What a shocker, right? Number one seed, undefeated Catholic League champions as well. Now they're trying to go. They've accomplished everything that you accomplished from dominating at the 4A level, going up to 5A, except one thing. They're trying to get their first state championship in 5A. They have as good of a chance as they can here in Division One Select as the number one seed. They will, of course, have a bye. They'll play the winner of number 16 Hammond and number 17 Huntington. Huntington, really both two good coaches, two of the more underrated coaches in the state. Hammond coach is led by Coach Dorset Buckles. Huntington coach Stephen Dennis. They have done an excellent job with their programs. But congratulations, the winner of that game will have to play in the car. Also, number 9 St. Augustine will take on number 24 seed Karen Crow. Karen Crow has a little bit of a down year compared to previous years, but they are very dangerous still. St. Aug, led by Coach Robert Valdez, one of the biggest coaching hires in the offseason, is on a good job with the Purple Knights and leading them back. And they will host a playoff game against Karen Crow. The winner of that game will take on the number 8 seed, the last team to get a bye, and that is St. Thomas More. St. Thomas More has won back-to-back state championships in Division Two Select. Now they moved up to Division One Select. So we'll see how the Cougars, led by Coach Jim Hightower, do in the playoffs. Number 5 seed Archbishop Rummel was second place in the Catholic League. In the Catholic League, will have a bye, and they're coming off a semifinal berth from last year. They'll take on the winner of number 12 McDonald 35 and number 21 Riverdale. Number 13 seed East Jefferson, great season led by Brian Glover as East Jefferson Warriors have won the district championship. They will take on Bonneville, and the winner of that game will take on number 4, the defending Division One Select state champions, the Catholic High Bears, at the number 4 seed. Once again, district champions and a great season. Their only loss coming to the U High Cubs this year. At number 3, as strong of a team as anybody in this bracket, the number 3 seeded Acadiana Wrecking Rams, led by head coach Matt McCullough. They are really good on defense. They can, of course, run the football, but this is probably their best passing game the program has ever had, which is saying a lot. They are very dangerous. They were the defending Division One Select state runner-ups last year. They'll take on the winner of Brother Martin and John Curtis. We have Cactus first round between the Crusaders and the Patriots. And John Curtis, fun fact, this is their first losing season since 1969, which was the first year JT Curtis took over the program as a young 22-year year old
Also,
head.
Jace, before you can move on, that was actually the first year ever. So he's been the head coach for the program's entire existence. So he didn't take over. He just became the head coach. His first year, they went 0-10. I believe they scored only like 8. They was some crazy. I think it was like they scored under 20 points or something crazy like that. It was like a crazy point total. And then the next year they went to the playoffs. So that lets you know like where that program, how that program started. You know,
Absolutely, Grant. Well said. And
28 state championships later.
yeah, there you go. The greatest high school football coach of all time, still kicking it, still coaching the Patriots, and they would like to pull up pull off the upset against the Crusaders. Number 11 seed Jesuit, which is a sleeper in this bracket. They're going to host number 22 seed Lafayette. Great season led by Coach Ryan Manali. They'll take on Turlings Catholic in a first round bye in the playoffs. Was the Rebels were undefeated for a large portion of the season before losing to St. Thomas More for the district championship. But great regular season under Coach Chapanche, and Turnley's Catholic will play the winner of Jesuit Lafayette. St. Paul's, also a district champions this year, led by quarterback Brennan Kime, and they have themselves a bye as a number 7 seed. Great season for the Wolves, as they have, I believe, 2 losses on the season. And they'll take on the winner of number 10 CE Bird and number 23 Woodlawn the Yellow Jackets, led by Coach Ballou, Stacy Ballou, doing a really good job this year. And then, of course, a rematch of that high-scoring shootout between Captain Shreve and Evangel Christian. Definitely pick the over here in terms of points. That should be a fun one offensively between the Gators and the Eagles. And then the number 2 seed, Daryl Felker, saw them win a district championship last week, and that is the Ash Trojans, an undefeated special season for the Trojans, undefeated in perhaps the toughest district in the state, and they will have the number 2 seed. So, guys, I would have to say, loaded bracket. There's plenty of teams that can win a state championship, and you can make the case whoever wins this state championship should have the crown of best team in the entire state, with the many teams that are in this bracket. So, fellas, let's go right into it. We're going to start off. I'll randomize it every so often with these playoff brackets. I'm going to start with Alex first. He went last time. So, Alex Allison for Gridiron Football. Tell us what you think about this bracket.
Absolutely ridiculous bracket, right? I mean, it's you hit the nail on the head. I think the 4 best teams in the state of Louisiana. I had a chance to see 3 of them in person throughout the regular season. They looked, and each one of them was during a win where they looked great. Catholic in the Jamboree, and then as well as Acadiana and Ash in 2 really, really impressive wins. Acadiana knocking off St. Thomas More early in the season, and then Ash's win over Ruston. All of these teams, and then of course there's Edna Carr, the elephant in the room. All of these teams are great, and I would be fairly surprised if none of those 4 teams won the state championship. As good as the rest of the field is, with Rummel's a great team, Turling's awesome, STM's kind of come back after a fairly slow start to the season. It's funny. I actually want to talk about St. Thomas More for a second. Early in the season, so I watched them play Acadiana early in the season. They didn't score an offensive point in that game. Daryl was there for them playing somebody else, Catholic, and the offense struggled in that game. And we were like, oh, they're going to play Turlings later in the year? They're going to get destroyed by Turlings. That's not going to be close. They can't do anything on offense. Well, 2 weeks later, they beat Westgate 41. They're up 41-0 at half against Westgate. And then they turn around and actually beat Turlings in the district championship games. And now they have a bye. And this isn't to say that I think one of the top 4 teams will win the state championship is not a disservice to St. Thomas More or any of these teams, whether it be St. Aug or St. Paul's, who I also got a chance to see earlier in the season. But I think they're just a different level. Jace hit the nail on the head. I would take any of these 4 teams against Ruston or Neville or Airline or wherever you want to take from the other bracket, from the public school, the non-select bracket. So on to the games themselves. Where do you even start? I mean, there are fun games all over this bracket. Captain Shreve Evangel Christian is where kind of you ended, Jace, with one of the best games in the state of Louisiana this season, unless you're a defensive coordinator. The over-under, I don't know if I would take the over, because the over probably should be set at like 150 points.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Obviously, there's no actual betting market here, but they scored, I believe, a combined 166 points or something like that in the first game. It was like 84-82.
Yeah.
So there's not going to be any tackling done in that game at all. Pop Houston's going to throw 9 touchdowns and lose again, probably is what's going to happen. And unfortunately, it'll be a fun game to watch. That's definitely, if you're circling one game, if you could just go to any game in the state of Louisiana this week, probably the game you want to go to because it's the one that's most likely to give you fireworks. However, unfortunately for the winner of this game, we talked about the 15-18 matchup last in the non-select bracket where Santa Mont and Westgate, the winner of that game is going to get a shot at Airline. Oh, that's so exciting. Well, the winner of Captain Truth Evangel, you get Ash. Have fun.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Yeah, so to me, as good as all these other teams are, we could see, you talk about Jesuit can make a run. St. Paul's is an interesting team. STM, they're probably going to get a crack at Nakar in the quarterfinals. They could, maybe they could do something interesting. I think it's those 4 teams. It's Catholic, it's Ash, it's Acadiana, and it's Nakar.
Okay, Alex, for the top side of the bracket,
Yeah.
we'll go with everybody else. Are you taking in the card just to go to advance to the Superdome on the top side of the bracket?
Yeah, we'll start with the top side here. I don't see Edna Card losing one of these games. We just watched them play Rummel last week. The game wasn't super close. Catholic's really good. I do think this will be a chalk semifinals. I think we will get Edna Card versus Catholic. Mm-hmm. I think we will get Acadiana versus Ash. That's my own prediction. Okay. In those games, it's so tough. It's so tough.
Yeah, I know.
Those teams have looked so unbelievable this season.
I know.
I haven't had a chance to see it in the car. I will take them over Catholic in the semifinals.
Okay.
Acadiana.
Bottom side.
Bottom side, I think it'll be Acadiana versus Ash. Again, that's nothing against St. Paul's. It's nothing against Turlings. It's nothing against, whether it's Brother Martin, Jesuit, any of these teams that are going to get a crack at Acadiana or Ash. But I think it'll be Acadiana versus Ash in the semis.
Okay, who you take?
The game itself, I really like what Caden DeBetta's been doing. I really like what that team is and how awesome that offense has looked.
Yeah.
But Ash looks unstoppable. Ash looks so good. And this is, you said it earlier, it's like a team of destiny. It's like a team that is unreal to watch. They beat Ruston in a game that they didn't look better than Ruston at times, but they ended up pulling out a huge win, a monumental win for that team in that season. And then last week, it is really hard to count against a team that just curb stomped Neville.
Yeah.
Earl was at that game. I didn't think Ash was that kind of team in against Ruston, but they went out and they just crushed Neville. If they are on that ascending upward trajectory, it's hard to count against them against anybody. So I will go ahead and take Ash to win that game against Acadiana in the semifinals.
And Alex, who is your state champion? Is it Carr or is it Ash? And would be a match of 1 versus 2.
Yeah. So I said before we started recording, and this might be a question you asked the others, do you take it in the car or do you take the field?
Yep.
I said I would take the field because Catholic, Acadiana, Ash, all great teams. I'll go ahead and take Ash to win the state championship right now.
Okay.
I don't feel great about it. I don't feel great about picking any of these teams. And it's funny, as I was talking about the Acadiana-Ash game, the more I'm like, should I take Acadiana to win the state championship? Yeah. They're so good. They're so good. And I this has been very rambly. My thoughts aren't very well organized about this. I'll take Ash. I don't know. I don't feel confident about it. There are so many good teams in this bracket. If you could convince me of whatever, but I'll go ahead and take Alexandria.
And that will be the next test, right? They passed all their tests all year. Can they beat Ruston? They did. Can they beat West Monroe? They did. Can they beat Neville? They did. Now, can they overcome that hump and win a state championship? And Alex says, hey, team of destiny, have a chance to do it. Daryl, I want your thoughts, too, because you were at that game. You were at that game seeing Alexandria put on one of the most impressive performances all year long. With that being said, Daryl, give us your thoughts on this, bro.
All right, I know you guys see Grant sliding in his chair.
I'll let you go, Daryl. I'm the one who's gonna have some thoughts on this, but anyway, go ahead.
Now, I want to end it with
he made some good thoughts. So Daryl needs to go first. I'll go last. Alex made some good points. I'm just a New Orleans guy reacting to this. Okay, I'm not gonna lie.
Coming.
And look, before we say anything, I'm going to be inherently biased because I didn't get a chance to watch it in the car.
Yeah.
So
You
I
don't
got a
need
chance
to.
watch it.
You don't need to.
No, they're
You don't
great.
need to.
This isn't meant to be like bashing in the car. They're an awesome team. It's nothing about that. It's just like I got a chance to see Ash. I got a chance to see.
Yeah. I
so
get it.
I'm gonna be
just letting
biased.
you know.
Anyway,
You don't need to see him.
That's me
Sure.
too. I get it. Like, hey, I mean, can they even lose? You're on this run. You're on this roll.
yeah.
It's
I
like,
mean, the other thing is like it feels like that game against Neville. I feel like you could beat anybody with that performance. Anyway.
Yeah. Go ahead, Daryl, because I want Grant's thoughts on this.
Sorry.
So I mean, like Alex said, I think this bracket specifically is very top heavy. Like the top 8 teams, I've seen 7 of 8 besides St. Paul's, and I don't see any of these teams really losing unless it's to another top 8 team. So I mean, starting from the top, I think Edna Carr. I think in the semis it'll be Edna Carr and Catholic, and I think Edna Carr will pull it out. I saw them earlier in the season against St. Aug, which I thought was going to be a really good game, really good competitive game, and Edna Carr.
Right, you were there for
that. Yeah. I mean, they all season they have looked completely dominant. They have been what most people would consider the number 1 team in Louisiana all season, and I think it's going to be tough for anybody looking to take them down in the playoffs. So I do think Catholic would have the best chance. I think that Catholic has a better chance than Rummel, but I do think Edna Carr would come out on top still over Catholic. And for the bottom half, I think Acadiana, as much as I love Turling's Catholic, I think Acadiana is going to be able to beat them. And I think they're going to end up facing off against Ash. And between Acadiana and Ash, I'm fresh off of seeing Ash, but I saw Acadiana the previous week, and both teams are really good. I mean, on both sides of the ball. And
you saw both, Daryl.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
see what you're more impressed with, just their performance on the field.
It's kind of tough because Ash, well, I mean, Acadiana was playing Southside at the time, and that was a really big matchup as well. But it didn't have that same kind of feeling that Ash against Neville did. So Ash's performance against Neville, it will kind of give me the edge on who showed up more in the bigger game. But for some reason, I want to roll with Acadiana. I mean, their team, I really like their team, and I think it's going to be a tough game for them. If they are able to pull it out against Ash, it's not going to be a blowout. It's going to come down to the wire, and they're really going to have to fight and basically play perfect. I mean, I've seen it all season: turnovers, fumbles, interceptions, just the smallest thing. It can change the game so quickly. So I think they're going to have to be as mistake-free as they can be if they want to win that game. But I do definitely think that they have a chance to pull it out. And so, yeah, I'm going to roll with Acadiana. And so they'll be facing off against Edna Carr in the state championship. And I'm gonna roll with Carr. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I've seen 7 of the top 8 seeds, and nobody has impressed me the way that Carr did. So
yeah,
I think I think it's hard to roll against them. So I'm gonna roll with Carr, and yeah.
All right, Grant. I know you've been waiting. Your thoughts, man.
Grant's rants.
Okay, go to the left a little bit because I'm going to start from the top of the bracket and up. So first of all, I just want to say this: Carr's not going to lose to the state championship. I don't think. I think Carr shown over the year that they literally dominated each and every single team that they have played. They killed Shaw. Like, they ran Shaw out of their own stadium.
Yeah.
And like they absolutely, like, honestly, the game against Rebel, it was a back and forth game, and then Carr destroyed them the rest of the way. I mean, you saw the whole they were down 20-0 Holy Cross. Then they scored 45 unanswered points and went 45-20. Like, Carr is a team that is not only well coached, but they respond to adversity well, and they've always have been. They've always have. They don't make too many mistakes, and if you do make mistakes against Carr, they're going to capitalize it almost all the time. I mean, they're not going to lose against the winner of Hammond and Huntington. I think that a team you watch out for is St. Thomas More. I think now I'll say this: a game that you need to watch out for is Carr versus St. Thomas More. I think there will be St. Aug, although I can see St. Aug being St. Thomas More, but I see St. Thomas More if it's the quarterfinals. And the issue between Carr and St. Thomas More has been the dome, but the last 2 years.
Last 2 years.
Carr has not been to a state championship game since 2020, and that game wasn't even played in the dome because it was played at Northwestern State. Yeah. So St. Thomas More experience can play a key factor against Carr, although most of those guys that are on the team are now gone. They have a bunch of new starters, but they've been a part of that experience. So I'm gonna pick Carr to go to the semifinals, go down to right there. I see Rummel go to the left. I see Rummel beating. So Rummel has a bye and Catholic has a bye. I don't see them losing the second round. That quarterfinal game will be interesting. I think Catholic has a really the way Rummel plays football. I think we'll frustrate Catholic. Last year, Rummel possibly could have beat Catholic if the game just get ran down. They had to play the next day. Rummel had all the momentum going that game before they shut it down. Yeah. So that's still on the back of a lot of on Rummel's mind, and also that controversial call where it was incomplete. Although I do think it was incomplete.
It was the right call. I felt like it was.
But still they still talk about it. So they're still on the back of the minds of that game. So they really want revenge. I think Catholic will win this game, although it's going to be really tight. It's going to be really tight because both teams play the exact same way. Essentially, I know Catholic scored a bunch of points in the last few games, but if you look at the style of the way they play, they're both very similar. And also, Rummel's the perfect team to kind of.
It seems like they always meet up in the playoffs for whatever reason.
Yeah, they always do. Yeah, they always do. They always do. But anyway, I think Catholic's going to win that one. But I wouldn't be shocked if Rummel advances to the semifinals for the second year in a row. Now you can go back to the left. Carr's got that bracket. Let's go down. Carr. Let's go down a little bit because they're all right. Go to the left. So there's a couple interesting games, right? Acadiana, of course, is a bye. Brother Martin Curtis could be a very interesting game because both teams have really struggled offensively going into district. Brother Martin, I know they scored 45. They scored 45 points against Warren Easton, but Warren Easton lit them up defensively. I'm kind of worried about Brother Martin's defense because Jaden Weber, I'm not sure if he played last week, but I know he didn't play against Warren Easton. And that kind of exposed a lot in the rush defense because Warren Easton was able to run the ball very effectively. But also, Nathan Malik will be out for the playoffs. Nathan Malik will be out for the year. He had to get surgery on his finger, and it's a season-ending injury. It wasn't a finger, but he had to get season-ending surgery, so he's going to be out unless Hey, but he's a defensive lineman. I can see him coming back because defensive linemen just have the most pain tolerance of anybody. But that'll be. I'm kind of concerned about Brother Martin against Curtis in the first round. That will be a good game. I think Curtis should win that game. But the problem with Curtis is that they've struggled offensively too, and they've been turning the ball over. So I'm really concerned about that game. And also, really, Brother Martin probably should have won that game, to be honest with you. Curtis got very lucky. Very, very lucky. This is not the same Curtis that we're used to seeing. They lost a lot from last year. But this is where it's going to just get interesting.
Yeah.
Turling's is going to lose against Jesuit in the second round.
I was thinking the same thing. I think Jesuit beats Turling's.
I know Turling's had a great run in the regular season.
Yep.
Jesuits played better teams. They've been battle tested. They've won some of those big games, and they've lost some of those big. The only time where they were completely out of the game was against Rummel in week 9. Other than that, all their games have been relatively close. And actually, they've held Carr to the lowest point total all year, which is 21. Every other game they scored 30, 40 plus points or more. Jesuit held Carr down 21-9, and really all Jesuit's best athletes are on the defensive side. Offensively, they're not that great because they don't really have the athletes on offense. All their best athletes are on defense, and I think Jesuit is going to give Turling's problems. Defensively. So I think Jesuit will advance to the quarterfinals, where they play Acadiana, and Acadiana will advance to the semifinals. Go down. St. Paul's. I think they'll advance to the quarterfinals. think C.E. Bird's going to advance to the next round, and I see St. Paul's beating C.E. Bird, given how well they played offensively. However, I think Alexandria is going to be St. Paul. St. Paul's, they have a lot of good players, but they just don't have the type of players Alexandria has more.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, Alexandria just has more depth. Alexandria, but I'll say this. I think Acadiana will advance to the state championship game. I'm not really all that confident about it, but the reason why I'm picking Acadiana over Alexandria, because Acadiana has been there before.
Yep. That's why yep.
Acadiana's been there before. I mean, the only year where they did not make it to a state championship, 2 years. So they've been to the state championship 3 out of the last 5 years.
Going back to back wins.
Yeah.
Yep.
2019, 2020, which in 2020 they beat Alexandria. So
a 2-point conversion. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. But other than that, Acadiana, I think the only year where they didn't go to the semifinals was in 2022. So this Acadiana team is very good. They're experienced. All those players have gotten experience playing in the state championship game before, and I see them beating Alexandria to advance to the state championship where they'll play at the Carr. I think Carr will win. I think Carr will win it all. I think they'll get revenge for their loss against Acadiana last year. Last year, I think Carr was just a year younger. I think they're a younger team last year. I think this year they're all more experienced. It's weighing on them that they not only have not gone to the state championship in a while, but also haven't won one in a while.
Yeah,
I think it's weighing back on this. I think this is the team to do it. However, they need to. But I think it's just all about stopping Acadiana. Not only are they effective running the beer, but they're also very effective in the pass game as well. But I think the kind of one weakness that Carr kind of has is their DBs. Sometimes they let up the big play. If they can just not allow the big play, I think this Carr team will win their first state championship since 2019.
Yeah, since moving up to 5A.
Whether it's like, let's assume that the state championship game is either Acadiana or Ash facing Carr, because I feel like we kind of all agree that feels one of those teams feels like it's fairly likely to get that matchup. Whichever one it is, the passing attack of Acadiana or Ash is going to be the difference maker in if they can have a chance of beating Carr. Oh, I lost my camera.
Well, I'm going to ask you, Grant, one question here. Two questions before I go over my final thoughts on the bracket. My first question is there any shot? I mean, we talked about it. Catholic has beaten Carr before in the playoffs. Is there a chance that Catholic does upend the Carr?
Oh, certainly. There's a chance. They've been the state champion 3 out of the last 4 years. I mean, there's always a chance. However, when Catholic did beat Carr, remember their quarterback was not fully healthy. AJ Samuel was not fully healthy. They rushed them back into the playoffs. Carr is a healthy team. They don't have any injuries. They're all healthy. And I think that's key, especially when everyone's kind of banged up right now. They're all relatively healthy. They're playing their best football right now. They just beat a Rummel team 69-28. Rummel has not allowed 30-plus points since the first game of the year. That was against LCA. And LCA, I know they're 3-6, but that's another team you need to watch out for as well.
Right.
Just because they had to deal with a lot of turmoil. They had to make a coaching change in the middle of the year. There's a lot of chaos going over there. But that's the same. That's how impressive Rummel's defense has been. And not only did Carr score that many points on them, they did it with ease.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what makes it even more impressive. So, Jace, I understand why you brought that question. That's a great question to ask because it is Catholic. They've won the state championship throughout the last 4 years, but I think this is the year where Carr finally comes through and wins the state championship. Because seriously, they made the move up to 5A in 2022. In 2020 and 2021, they lost the state championship to Karen Crow. Yeah. And then the next year, they got upset by Westgate in the semifinals.
Mm-hmm.
So even in 4A, they hadn't been to the state.
And that potential state championship matchup between Carr and Acadiana. Remember, Acadiana did beat Carr in the semifinals last year. So
yes,
that would be an awesome match.
Yes, I did mention that.
Yep. And my last question.
Yeah, I did. Go ahead.
My last question, Grant, is besides we talked so much about those 4 teams, right? We talked about Ash. We talked about Acadiana, Catholic, Carr. let's just say these other teams that are not the top 4 seeds, which potential team that's not those 4 teams we talk about can make a legitimate run to the dome, potentially play in the state championship, and really can make this interesting and knock this into absolute craziness.
Well, I mean, yeah, I think one of them, of course, is going to be Rummel. Rummel, you saw the cap factor in Rummel, and the success that they had this year. I know they got blown up by Carr 69-28, but that's still a very good defense. Their offense, it seems like it's starting to pick up. Although I know they only scored 28 points against Carr, their offense the last 2 games is really starting to pick up. They're starting to pick up the pace, and a lot of that has to do with the fact that Norman Taylor's back in the offense, so they're able to be a little bit more creative and. But then also going up, I think you just actually scroll past them, and this is really the team you need to watch out for, St. Thomas More. I know St. Thomas More had a tough start for the season, but this is a young St. Thomas More team, right? And they had a really tough non-district schedule. But now they're starting to pick up offensively. They're starting to score points. Cole Bergeron's a lot more comfortable in the pocket. The receivers are starting to come along, and then also their defense is still pretty solid. St. Thomas More will make this thing interesting. I think that, like I said, in the quarterfinals, that's an interesting matchup to watch out for. Although I think Carr is I just think the Carr is just more determined each and every week. It seems like they may make a few mistakes, but you won't see them making that same mistake next week. They're there's a lot of I'll say this. This bracket isn't like the deep. I think Division 4 Select is actually deeper than this.
I agree.
Yeah. I was actually looking at the brackets again. It's really it's really not that deep. However, there's one thing to say about it. This is the most well-coached bracket, really, in my opinion. Yeah, if you start going down the list, I mean, obviously you have JT, 28 state championships, Catholic, Hudson Fuller, has had a lot of success as head coach despite only being like 32 or 33 years old.
Right.
Mark Bonise, Ryan McNally, been to the state championship multiple times. Dane Charpentier, go down the list. Ken Sears, 25 plus years of being a head coach. If you just go down the list and start looking at all the programs that are in it, this is the deepest. In terms of coaching, Robert Valdez. In terms of coaching, this is the deep. Denny Duran, that's another name to throw out there. And of course, I know he was mostly the offensive coordinator during Avengers run, but he's still a guy factor him in. I mean, but my point is, this is like the deepest in terms of coaches. Thomas Bachman, you mentioned Alex Bachman. This is the deep in terms of coaches. If you look at all 24 teams, about half of them have been to the state championship, probably close to it.
Yeah, that's a good point, Grant. I'm gonna get my final thoughts before we move on to the next bracket. At the top side, this is Edna Carr's year, like no doubt about it. I saw them in the spring. Haven't got a chance to see them in the regular season this year. Looking forward to seeing them in the playoffs. But this team is just, where's the weakness? That John Johnson's a great quarterback. They can run the football as well. They got great receivers. You can say maybe the most talented receiver core in the state, led by Teron Francis, Manchild, and they got a lot of really good weapons at receiver. Defensively, they have the best defensive line in the state too. You got an LSU commit down there. You got an Ole Miss commit down there as well at safety. To Aiden Halls, and a big-time recruit LSU commit to. So it's just, where's the defense? They're well coached. Bryce Brown does a great job. I love my Catholic High Bears. I do, and they are a legitimate team, and they're getting hot at the right time. But I gotta go with the Cougars, because if it's not now, when it's going to be for them. So I have them going outside the top side of the bracket. At the bottom side of the bracket here, pretty briefly, I got Acadiana. I have them being Ash. I love Ash's football team this year. I love the story they're having this year, but I don't think they're as battle tested when it comes to this time of year. It's hard to be Acadiana in the playoffs. Coach McCall has won back-to-back state championships. They were in the Superdome last year, but this may be his most complete team, because we've seen them run the veer, running the football. We've seen them have great defenses, but they never had a passing game like they've had. McCann DeBetta, Colin DeBetta, Russell Babineau, those receivers. I think they're the most balanced football team that he's ever had. So I'm going to have them advance to the bottom side of the bracket, which will be a matchup between Edna Carr and Acadiana, which would be awesome. That's going to be a rematch. I think it lines up that way too. because this was a rematch of the semifinal games a year ago. But I'm going to go with the Cougars to win the state championship. I know they've had that impressive run in 4A. They get to 5A. They performed well, but it was like, okay, when is that state championship coming? Like you mentioned, it's been since the COVID era, right? Since the last time we've seen and the car in the state championship game. So I think it's going to happen again. I know Bryce Brown's tired of hearing that. I know this program's tired of hearing it. So they're on a mission this year. When this team is in focus and they're on a mission, nobody's beating this team. I got the Cougars. So all right, guys. So that is Division One select. So in recap, I believe we have 3 for End the Car, and we have 1 for Ash as well. So this is Division One select. You please give a comment. Who do you have, fans out there? Who do you have coming out of Division One select? I appreciate Grant, Alex, and Daryl. Make sure to subscribe to our channel and go to gridironfootballusa.com for all things football, and we'll go on to the next bracket.